This is Intel Nuc with Intel i7-8705G with Radeon Vega MGL graphics with 4GB of HBM memory and with 9 USB ports in total, with 3 USB-C ports and 2 of them are Thunderbolt 3 ports. It's a long sentence, but let's open the box. It's a really great score here. It's actually unseenable on the surface of the product, and let's take it out and have a look. It's completely black on the surface and it's really a port monster. It got 9 USB ports, you can see, and a lot of USB charging ports and 2 HDMI ports, and another 2 is display ports. It can support up to 6 displays. However, this is a barebone machine, so we have to do our memory and our SSD and something like that. Let's see what it contains in the box. Unlike Mac-Mini, the NUC didn't integrate the power supply inside the body of the machine, so it will have a relatively large power supply on the outside. But luckily we can put that aside, because the only thing we gotta see is just this big brick of the NUC itself, and it has a lot of documentaries like screwdrivers and a lot of backup screw threads and some kind of cables you can see. Without further ado, I checked out all the documentaries and manuals and warranty, some cards and all the foams and all the cardboard inside the box, and at last I'm going to build this thing with my own RAM and my NVMe drive sold separately, and I am going to build it in Hackintosh. The first barrier is the 6 screw. With the screwdriver they gave us in the box, we can unscrew it and just reveal the inside and the LED panel inside the box. Then this is what it looks like when we are not opening it. It's just another screw here, and after that we can open up and see the bare bone itself. And after open it up, we can see that it's like 2 M2 drive slots, which they both support NVMe drives, and 2 DDR3 like MDDR3 I mean those shorter for laptops DDR3 memories, and a SATA drive, unexpectedly a SATA drive socket, and a unknown GPIO drive slot. I don't know what it's all about, and luckily we have a swappable network card slot. It's an M2 and it's swappable to like those Broadcom card for those Hackintosh builds. And after doing this, just plug it in and we'll do our next step. So actually I visited TonyMacX86.com, the website, and there is a legendary man called RehabMan have a fully tutorial to do Intel Nuc Hackintosh. So make sure you turn off your secure boot and the VTD, which I didn't turn it off in the video, but you have to turn it off, and you will have detailed instructions on how to actually do Hackintosh, much more detailed. So just don't follow my instructions in the video. Instead you go to the TonyMacX86.com, and there is a thread telling you how to do the Hackintosh itself. Actually, here I did not show you how I made the bootable USB drive and how I did the Clover boot manager installing, and everything should be done on an actual Mac. An actual Mac OS system before this, and it's not enough, so I ended up being banned like this right now. So after a couple of hours researching and doing, I finally managed to use a tool from Tony Mac x86. It's called Unibist, to get myself a installation drive, a USB drive, and tried my best to actually finally get to the stage where I can install the Mac Os Mojave on my NVMe drive here. And I should use I'm using the disk utility to format the whole drive to initiate it, and to get an Apple FS drive here, and finally it gets into the install process at last. So actually, I'm always concerned about the legal factor about this doing Hackintosh, but actually, there's no one, I think, been sued for doing Hackintosh so far. So after a couple of agreements and options, finally we get to the stage where we are going to install the Mac OS Mojave on our drive. And it's copying files onto the drive, so it can finally directly put into your computer, where those install files are already stored in it. And I'm going to fast forward for this very boring. It's actually happened in like a couple of hours. I mean, for my NVMe drive, it only took about like half an hour, but I'm going to fast forward anyway. It's going to reboot for several times, and it's going to configure for something. I'm going to just jump to the configuration stage of this machine. So it's booting again, and as we can see here, it's the Clover bootloader. It's now scanning entries for the drive. It's actually loaded up all the Apple drivers and all the spoofing materials, like those kernel extensions and everything, like the driver of the Apple Mac OS uses, and it just let the Mac OS system think it is on a Hackintosh computer instead of a personal computer. I mean, x86 computer or x64 computer or whatever. It's just providing everything to Mac OS and feed him to let him think I am on a Hackintosh with those SMBRs, MVRAMs, like the Apple EFI things. It's just a lot of things, and after a whole bunch of restarting and reinitiating the system, finally we get to the stage where it finally ended its installation process, and it's the final step. It's to configure it as your Hackintosh computer. It's the last time the Clover scanned the entries, and you're going to see a lot of Macintosh entries for that, because Apple do a lot of pre-booters. Like, it has to be a pre-boot for a loader for those file vault, the security feature, those recovery feature, and a lot of features like that, to ensure the actual Macintosh user's experience. I mean, it's really an experience when you're using an actual Macintosh, but in Hackintosh, it's just an alternative, really not illegal alternative, and it's really great when you own a Mac. When you used to be a PC user, when you get used to it, it's just fabulous when using a Mac. So we are in the stage where we do those setups, and we're going to go through it. And here we're going to choose our location. Location is some kind of keys in every device. It determines the regulations, the languages, and the time zones, and everything else, including the keyboard layout. I choose British keyboard layout because I'm using it right now. and it's kind of unfamiliar when using it. The add is not on the number 2, it's actually on the right of the L key. And the data and privacy, I'm not giving any privacy privacy data to Apple because I'm using Hackintosh right now, and the only thing I have now, it's a Ethernet, wired Ethernet, because Wi-Fi is not supported on this device. By this device I mean the integrated Intel Wi-Fi adapter integrated in one of the M2 slots inside the body of the Intel Nuc. It's not supported. If you are using those unswappable Intel Wi-Fi card, you gotta have some external Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card to get your AirPods, AirDrops, and your continuity work. And sometimes even iMessage and something like that. And I'm using a wired network right now, and to do some other configuration, it's just like when you're doing a really old Windows computer like XP, you have to determine everything you do, you have to install drivers after that. It's just the same situation in Macintosh right now. And in our case, we have only one Intel Ethernet card, wired network can be driven by Mac OS for now. So it's the Intel i210 Wi-Fi Ethernet card. So one of the port is working, but the other is not working at all. I'm going to plug it in there, and maybe I'll just go with no network at all and use Unibist to do my final driver installation and some configurations. Unibist is an application, it should be developed by the Tony Mac x86.com, and it's a very good app when you are doing with those sound, and also the video graphics card, and your boarding configuration, and sometimes it can deal with some minor network issues. It's a toolbox. It's very useful. If you're using some very common hardware, try use Unibist. It's gonna save you a lot of time, but not in this case. In our NUC case. So after a couple of minutes working, I found that I really can't get the network working, so I just have to continue without the Ethernet connected. And these options are just recommended when you agree everything and you are providing nothing to Apple, and you create your account, which I use my name here and some secret password. I won't let you know that, and it's going to set up, and you will see the desktop really quick. And the last thing here you are going to do is to solve what you can solve for now, and everything you can't do it for now, you have to put it later on, because it's going to be a lot of things like SSDTs, like those sound issues, like those frame buffers. Frame buffer is like the video graphics RAM for the internal Intel graphics, just like that. It's really complicated, and you have to do a lot of research into it using some tools, some developers tools like hardware, those stuff, a lot of things. It's really complicated, but luckily we are Intel Nuc, a really widespread Intel hardware here. So Rehab Man, it's the legendary man, he has already decided to do a fully utilized manual to it's just following the instruction, and you will get a fully working Hackintosh computer there. I will link that in the description below. And this is the Mac I have already built here, and all of these are recorded on a recorder which have an HDMI in from the Hackintosh right now, and it's working, but it's not perfect. Its frame buffer is not, so it's like lagging everywhere, but it's not glitching. And this is and we can see it in the system information here right now. We can see a lot of things not working, but in the meantime a lot of things are already working because we have already put into the system. Now I'm going to show you how to use Unibist and what Unibist actually can do. Oh god, after the whole video, like several minutes of video, I think every Unibist I have pronounced it wrong, because it's actually meant for multibist here. In multibist here we have to choose like we can choose like whether we are using UEFI boot mode or legacy boot mode, because in the legacy boot mode we are not using it right now. We're using UEFI boot mode right now, and the legacy is like it's got a lot of beer. It's like Santa Claus there because it's a really old boot mode there, and we can solve like audio problem, like disk problems. Sometimes the NVMe drive, we have a problem with that. We can use this disk problem to fix it. And the network problems it usually contains all of those network drivers which is not integrated inside the Mac Os Mojave or something like that. And the USB is rather important. We got 9 USB ports and 2 are integrated USB ports inside the motherboard. And Apple devices is not usually support that many USB ports, so we have to do some modification. We usually use a thing called USB inject, or to inject all the USB ports to make it available in the PCs. This is rather tricky, but I'm still not figuring out why Apple do this, but it has its own reasons why, because they don't do other hardware, so they just do it whatever they like. And we can see there are other bootloaders and customize, and finally we got a build there. After the build, we are going to set up the Clover configuration inside the boot partition, like the EFI partition. It's going to lead the Clover boot manager to behave as we expecting it to do. SMC is a rather important component. It's like the power management component for the actual Macintosh computer, so we have to fake an SMC to provide those informations like the frequency of the CPU, or the temperature and the fan speed, and etc. to the Macintosh to make it think itself is fully functional. And we can see the network here. It has some integrated network drivers like this Intel Mouse-app Ethernet is actually several in one driver here, so it's rather important when you have some unsupported Intel Ethernet card that it's not supported by Mac OS internally. And we have this USB injector I just mentioned before, and it's really important. Kernel extensions there. By the way, kernel extension is aka KEXT, is the driver thing in the Mac OS. And in the bootloader we use we can only choose one, like I have to choose UEFI boot mode, and I don't know where this emulated NVRM means, but I don't know, but it's not relevant. When it's not booting, just use your USB stick to boot it again and cancel this and choose another options here, and it's relatively easy to do. And the graphics, it's rather tricky. It's really tricky. you have to do a lot of research. So I'm not going to talk very deep here. And those SSDT options and system definitions, these are very complicated and I can't really talk really deep into it. But SSDT is something called, it's like presets. When you're using a specific model of laptops, you can just use the SSDT for your laptop and it's going to configure everything. It's like those proving those here and there, it's going to preset for you for your computer. And after all the selections, we just go to the build page and we are going to install this configuration and install it to your internal drive of your computer and enter your password. It's showing us what to do, what is going on. It's install the Clover boot boot manager into your drive, and it's installing those everything you've chosen, everything you've configured using the multi-beast. Multi-beast is rather tricky, rather important tools, but it's like Tony Mac X86. It's like they own it and they don't really want others to use it. If you want to use it, just become a member of them. I think I highly recommend it because I think Rehab Man is there and it's going to solve everything. But I'm not expecting everything to be solved actually, because they're using their own time to do these works, and I'm just appreciate that. And finally, the multi-beast has finished its installation and we are going to reboot it. However, for our specific Hackintosh here, the Intel Nuc 8i7Hxx here, we use another option because I am using this NUC and you are using this NUC. If you can directly use my configuration here, and I'm going to link the configuration. It's my EFI folder there in the description below. If you are doing that, you can use my configuration, my KEXTs like Kernel Extensions, and I'm not using any SSDT right now. I'm just injecting the Vega graphics card, and it's glitching everywhere, but the hardware acceleration is actually working. It's got glitching everywhere. It's not supported because Apple never used this graphics card anywhere before, so they did not develop any kind of drivers for that. That's a bit of a mess, but however, Final Cut Pro is fully working. Everything is fully working instead of Safari like Microsoft Office. It's glitching everywhere. So if you're happy with that, just go do it. And if you unfortunately bought this and you are going to do Hackintosh, you are gonna bear with it for a little while longer. And after some day, I managed to swap the Intel Wi-Fi card to a Broadcom one, so it internally supports the AirDrop and continuity feature. And if you like my video here, and although my pronunciation isn't that good, but if you like it, please give it a thumb up. If you love it, consider subscribe me. Thank you. If you've got any help, I'll be very happy that. Just make your everyday absolutely fantastic. See you next time.